And so I did learn something very profound about sales. I disliked sales, I think, from the beginning because my father was a salesman. And I certainly didn't like his style of selling. He was a very aggressive, very pushy person. So I did not like that. So I, of course, wanted to do the opposite of that. But I learned something about sales that I want to share with you. I learned that every sale is a process. It's not just winging it. It's just not just a conversation. You actually go through this process. This is the model, interaction to transaction, every time you're about to sell your services. So the interaction, that makes sense. That's the building rapport. That's the connecting with someone. That's actually the thing that most of us are really great at. We're actually really, really good at this. That second piece is the credibility part. Now here's the thing. I wrote a book on this. I actually wrote the book on interaction to transaction. You know, people say I wrote the book on it. I actually wrote the book on it, interaction to transaction. And this is mainly for women, okay, because our target market is women entrepreneurs. And I believe, it is my belief, that women tend to struggle with this process more than men. Now that doesn't mean that men don't struggle with it, okay? I don't want you to hear me like I'm saying that men don't ever have a problem having a sales conversation. And maybe even messenger men have a little bit more of a challenge with it than just the average Joe. But for women, what I started to notice, and I was working in a very male-dominated field. My clients were all men. Most of my colleagues were men. And what I started to notice was that men seemed to have no problem going from interaction to transaction. I watched them meet, and from like the first handshake to give me your credit card or sign on the dotted line, they seemed to be able to move into that space so quickly. But what I started to notice was I kept getting hung up in the need to establish my credibility. I kept thinking I had to prove more. I had to do more. I haven't been in business long enough. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough successful testimonials from my clients yet to prove that. So I got hung up in this loop of the interaction, which I was good at, but the credibility, which I kept trying to prove, kept trying to prove. I saw people that were not as good as me getting deals like this. They didn't worry about their credibility. They figured doing it, that'll give them the credibility. So when we started working with women entrepreneurs, I realized I was not alone. That this is something that the vast majority of them struggle with, is seeing themselves as credible and then being able to convey that to their prospects so that they can get the sale or get the business and then obviously transform the life. But if they don't ever feel that credibility, that's the self-worth part, then they get hung up in this loop. And they start doing things like giving away their services for free. I don't know anyone that does that in this room.